However, for young Perkins and Pastor Jackson, their fight had just begun. The three sit on the back of the old ice wagon. There they remain in silent contemplation as the wagon slowly lumbers into town, passing the wooden poles containing the cautionary sundown law. The group enter Musky. "Hold up there, shotgun." Old Man Grimes holds the wagon in front of the old red brick ice house. "This is as far as I go. I don't go into town, you know that." "Mighty oblige," replies the pastor, as he helps the widow Hazel down. "Thank you kindly, Mr. Grimes," voices young Perkins. "Yes, thank you, Mr. Grimes," echoes the widow. Jubal remaining silent, the poor soul carefully climbs down from the wagon. With head bowed, his shoulders stooped, his face displays a sad, hangdog look of depression. Jubal lazily trudges along, slowly shadowing the group as they continue their way into the town's interior. Behind them, the sound of the wagon brings two white men to the door of the ice house. "Howdy, boy," one of the men is heard to say. "How do," greets Mr. Grimes, with a cheerfulness that is as false as it is friendly. The conversation becomes indistinct as the group continues their way into the town's interior. Tension mounts with each step as the group enter deeper into town. Curious eyes appear from behind the shades of shops. Two middle-aged, heavy-set white women stare from behind the plate-glass window of a ladies' hat shop. While passing a barber shop, the barber slightly nicks the cheek of a customer. Unconcerned with the wound, both barber and client stand at the doorway of the shop. Uncertain of the group's intention, the whites of the town remain mute. They continue watching through inquisitive eyes. How different Musky looked in the daytime, thought the young man. The bright, cleansing light of day dispelled the shadows, dispelled the fear. He was with Pastor Jackson, a man of God. The group approached the heart of Musky, that being the town's square where it waited. The tree, standing like a vivid nightmare, Polyphemus, its twisted limbs reaching out, threatening to touch, like the fingers of cold death, like the venomous snakes on the hideous head of Medusa, its every branch a living gorgon. They seemed to writhe with the slightest breeze, a horror beyond the horrific. As stood the tree of life in the Garden of Eden, so like the tree of death it stood, its yearly sacrifice presenting the hellish sight of a mutilated man hanging. A strange fruit indeed, its branches overshadowing all with a raw, naked, primeval malevolence, far surpassing anything eldritch. That was the town's heartless heart, its soulless soul. From the core of hell's own heart, it grew. May God have mercy on the merciless. May God have pity on the pitiless. May the angels weep for Musky, for the damned and the doomed, for the tree. That damned thing it was. There, God. Ahead was the pool hall where Jubal worked. Lurking in front of the door stood a trio of young toughs. "Well, looky here. Where y'all niggers think y'all going? We already got a shoe black. Ain't that right, Jubal, boy?" With that, the other two give out a round of cackling laughter. Hazel, the pastor, and young Perkins ignore the group of ruffians and continue walking. As for Jubal, he merely shrugs and mumbles, "I reckon." Placing his box on the stand, he begins to remove its contents. The various items are notably several cans of shoe polish, 3 old worn shoe brushes, a few rags. Removing the rags from the box, he begins dusting away the dust from the stand, whereupon the first man takes a seat on the shoeshine stand and presents a shoe to Jubal. One of the young white men become irritated by the lack of response. Deeming it a display of disrespect, he turns and enters the pool hall where the deputy is engaged in a game of pool. "Deputy," he says, "there's some niggers out here. I think they's headed to the sheriff's office." "Don't bother me, boy," snaps the deputy. Can't you see I'm about to make this shot? Watch this. Pool cue in hand, the deputy skillfully completes the shot. The billiard ball careens into the corner pocket, vanishing in the hole. The deputy then turned and questioned the young tough. Now, what did you say, boy? The young tough begins to stammer. There's what? Questions the deputy, his agitation growing. The young man turns and walks to the open door, pointing down the street. His eyes summon the deputy. The look of concern on the young ruffian's face denotes trouble. Whereupon the deputy reaches over to the hat rack. Strapping on his gun belt, he exits the pool hall. Standing next to the young man, the deputy angrily eyes the group as they enter the sheriff's office. "Goddamn niggers." The deputy voices his disdain through gritted teeth. He then begins walking toward the sheriff's office. The rapidly rotating propellers of the ceiling fan offered little relief from the heat. The sheriff reclines in the seat of a high-backed swivel chair, his feet propped on the edge of a roll-top desk. With eyes closed, he slowly rubs his sweaty forehead with the bottle of cool soda, while the other hand lazily fans himself with a folded newspaper. Standing in the doorway, the pastor knocks on the edge of an open door, whereupon the sheriff's eyes remained closed. "What y'all want?" queries the sheriff, the lackadaisical tone reflecting the level of the day's rising humidity. "Excuse me, Sheriff. It's me, Pastor Jackson." Agrees. With the announcement, the sheriff's eyelids remained shut, continuing to fan himself. He takes a short sip from the cool bottle of soda and places it on the edge of the desk. His eyelids slowly begin to creep open. He then emits a short burp, sucks his teeth for a moment, then yawns. "What y'all want?" repeats the sheriff, with a listless, drowsy demeanor. "You mind if we come in? I'd be obliged if you let us come in. There's a few things need to be said. Well, hell." The sheriff inhales, then exhales in exasperation, all the while fanning himself with the worn newspaper. "Come on in, then." With that, the pastor removes his hat as the three enter. Pastor Jackson motions his head in the direction of a long wooden bench next to the open door against the wall. Young Perkins and Hazel take their place on the bench. There they stare in silent apprehension. She uncertain as to the outcome of the confrontation. Miss Hazel wondered if she and young Perkins would be witness to any demonstration of violence between the two men. Her nerves begin to fray as she unconsciously takes the young man by the hand. Pastor Jackson was the first to speak. In an accusatory tone, he says, "I heard tell y'all caught a colored boy in town after dark a few weeks back." The sheriff's head tilts back, wrinkling his brow, feigning ignorance. "Let me see now." He, musing, ponders the question as he sucks his teeth. Reaching over to the desk, he once more takes a sip from the bottle, once more emitting an even louder belch. He again places the bottle of soda on the counter. The sheriff's slothful manner begins to irritate Pastor Jackson, who begins to rapidly fan himself with his new fedora. "Yes, Sheriff. A colored boy. A boy by the name of Jonah. You know, Silas's boy, Jonah. His mama Bessie May is beside herself. We ain't seen hide nor tail of him near on a month now. My, the sheriff calmly exclaims as he leaned back in the chair. "Now, Pastor, you know the law here in Musky. All the colored folks around here know the law. If that there boy, what's his name now?" The sheriff scratches his head as if trying to recall. "Jonah," snaps Pastor Jackson. "Watch your tone, boy." The sheriff angrily snaps back. The growing tension forces Miss Hazel to squeeze young Perkins' hand ever tighter. Young Perkins briefly glances up at Miss Hazel, whose eyes remained transfixed. As she stares, her face reflects an unusual expression. a look of an impending, "What?" Young Perkins' eyes follow her gaze, as he too becomes trapped in the fascination of the two men's interaction. "Don't call me boy. Boy, I'm not a boy. I'm a man, just like folks call you sheriff. You call me Pastor Jackson." The sheriff's face becomes red. He rises from his seat and approaches Pastor Jackson. "If you think you gonna come in here like you own the place, don't you get on your high horse and think you gonna question me about some little nigger brat. You got another think coming. Hell, Pastor." The sheriff's face becomes an angry grimace. "I wasn't even in the town. I was up in Jackson. Yeah." The pastor angrily cuts off the sheriff in mid-sentence. "We all know what you do up there in Jackson. All the colored folks around here know how much you just love Jackson, Mississippi, especially at night." The pastor's anger grows. He then exacerbates the situation by quoting a line from a Langston Hughes poem, "A nigger night, a nigger joy, a little yellow bastard boy." The sheriff's hands ball into fists. "You calling me a nigger lover?" The two stand in stalemate, each staring in stone defiance. A burst of alarm echoes through the room. The deputy suddenly rushes into the office and blurts out, "Sheriff, there's some niggers in town. I think they're looking for that there nigger boy we caught that night." "Damn you, fool!" shouts the sheriff to the deputy, furious at the deputy for the thoughtless way he'd shown the glaring light of truth on the subject of Jonah's whereabouts. The deputy's words burned away the sheriff's attempt at subterfuge. His feigned declarations of ignorance as to the fate of Jonah had instantly revealed itself to be a naked lie. It is only then that the deputy realizes his mistake. In his haste, he hadn't noticed the presence of the three. Pastor Jackson merely folds his arms and takes a single step back. Waiting for an answer, he glares at the sheriff with accusatory eyes. Young Perkins and Miss Hazel are stunned at the deputy's words. They sit on the edge of the bench, their heads turned to the deputy in the doorway, and then back at the sheriff. An awkward silence mingles with the heat and humidity of the sheriff's office. The deputy remained speechless, his eyes attempt to apologize to the sheriff, whereupon the sheriff reaches into his back pocket and tosses a pair of keys to the deputy. Through narrowed eyes, with a voice filled with the bitterest of guile, the sheriff hisses out, "I think it's about time you make your rounds." The deputy, yet humbled by the sheriff's anger, mutters a sheepish, "Yes, sir, sheriff." The deputy immediately exited the room and climbed into the town's only patrol car, parked out front. The engine starts, and the car can be heard to speed away. All eyes are now on the sheriff, who, becoming uneasy, takes a few steps back. He then takes the keys to the cells from a nail next to an iron door, separating the office from that of the jail cells, which contains 6 separate cells. Putting the key into the lock of the iron door, the sheriff opens the heavy door and bids the pastor to accompany him for more privacy. The pastor enters, whereby the sheriff also enters the room, closing the iron door behind. He and the pastor begin to converse. Their words are indistinct. Curious, young Perkins cautiously walks across the room, placing an ear up to the heavy metal door. He begins listening. Behind the door, the sheriff and pastor are involved in a heated debate. "I told you I wasn't in town, and damn it, I wasn't," so voices the sheriff in a bitter but conciliatory tone. "I'm sorry. I can't control the damn fools. When I'm gone, that son of a bitch out there think he's sheriff. You all know why I go off to Jackson? Why, hell, your people are my people. I got family up there. I hate this damn town as much as you do. I'm only down in Musky because I needed the job. What kind of work would them crackers let a colored man like me do in Mississippi, in Jackson, in Musky, if they knew I wasn't white?" The shock of hearing the sheriff confess his true blood causes young Perkins to cover his mouth with both hands. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. He quickly glanced at Miss Hazel, who remained in her seat, eyeing him curiously. I know. The pastor's anger begins to cool. How is Mama? The pastor softly inquires in a conciliatory tone. She ain't been well lately. That's why I've been going up there so often. Mama's always asking me to bring you when I come visiting. After all, she's your Mama, too. His emotions pricked. The pastor begins to choke up. I know she ain't been well. I know Mama loves us both. But, the pastor fights back tears. But the colored folks here in Musky need me. They need a pastor. Jackson's got more churches than it needs. But here in Musky, the colored folks here got nobody. Nobody but me. You know how bad things are here in Musky. How much worse would things be if they didn't have me to pray with them, to preach to them, to give them some kind of hope? The sheriff puts a question to his half-brother. I keep the peace. How bad do you think things would get without me? What would happen to me if they found out that I, their own sheriff, was nothing more than just a high yellow nigger? So, Jonah is... Young Perkins presses his head tightly against the door, straining to hear the answer, when suddenly the loud rattling engine of a Model T Ford backfires, frightening the youth, who then rushes back to his seat. What were they saying? Questions the widow Hazel. Young Perkins looks at her with eyes wide. He wants to tell. He burns to reveal the sheriff's secret. Should I? The young man mulls it over in his mind. Well, questions the widow. I couldn't rightly hear, but there was a mite amount of cussin'. Words not fit for a lady like yourself. I reckon I go back and find out what else they saying. Young Perkins once more creeps up to the door and presses his head tightly against it. It's all that damned tree, voices the pastor with disgust. They worship the damn thing. I know, replied the sheriff, his voice denoting a fearful apprehension. It's alive, you know. You know it's alive. I hate to go near it. It feeds on the lifeblood of the colored folks. It seems to know that I'm not quite white. I can feel its hunger. But as far as I know, it ain't never took the life of a body that been baptized. Was the boy baptized? The sheriff questions the pastor. The pastor gives no reply. Once more the sheriff questions in a more sterner tone. Was Jonah baptized? The pastor offers a feeble excuse. It's that Silas. Time and time and time again, I asked that woman of his, Bessie May, to let me baptize the boy. But always, that bastard Silas would interfere. He wouldn't allow the boy to go to church, let alone be baptized. Then it's on you, ain't it? Accuses the sheriff. Every life that tree takes, every drop of Negro blood is rightly on your hands. Period. Ain't it, brother? The word brother is spoken nastily, hurtful, revealing an animosity of long standing between the two. Something in their youth had created a deep wound, some painful scar that had yet to heal. So, let me give you a word of advice, the sheriff cautions. If I was you, I'd get every young colored boy in this county baptized, starting with that little fella out there. Don't forget the deputies saw 2 black boys. I'll tell you what, says the sheriff. I'll say they caught the boy, and they took him down the county, down to the juvenile hall there. Then after a spell, I'll say the boy took sick. Then you make up a story about you went up there to see the boy and prayed with him just before he died. That ought to make his folks feel better. Well, the pastor uncertain. Well, nothing, says the sheriff, as he gives the pastor a friendly slap on the back. That's that. Finding the conference at an end, the young man rushes back to his seat and takes his place next to the young widow. The heavy iron door opens. The two emerged from the cell. "Jonah? Is he okay?" queries the widow with concern. Now, just simmer down." The sheriff responds, "I didn't rightly remember the boy at first. But the pastor here reminded me. I guess I forgot at first, but he helped me to remember." "Ain't that right, pastor?" says the sheriff, in a tone that attempts to reassure the group. The pastor, he remains silently gazing down at his shoes. With a strained expression, he replied with a soft, "Yeah, I reckon so." The young widow is puzzled by the pastor's behavior, but not young Perkins, who had heard all. If to punish the pastor further, the sheriff once more lazily walks across the room and takes a seat in the high-back wooden swivel chair. Thus he resumes his former position, placing his feet again on the edge of the roll-top desk, and continues sipping from the half-empty bottle of soda, looking at the pastor, who nervously fans himself with his new fedora. His eyes not wishing to reveal his heavy heart, he continues gazing down. In order to inflict further humiliation, the sheriff encourages, "Go head on, pastor. Tell the nice lady what come of that there boy. Ah. Jonah," young Perkins snaps. "My cousin's name was Jonah." "Was? What do you mean, was?" inquires Miss Hazel. "Is he okay?" "He's not." Her eyes look to Pastor Jackson for an answer. "No, ma'am. Ain't nothing wrong with Jonah." The pastor's eyes clenched shut tightly as he grits his teeth and grinds out what young Perkins knows to be a blatant lie. "You see, Miss Hazel, Jonah was in town all right. Sheriff says the deputy, well, he's the one what grabbed little Jonah. Sheriff say, deputy. Well, deputy didn't want no harm to come to the boy, so he put Jonah in the squad car and... The pastor struggled to continue. He is then aided by the sheriff, who finishes the lie. Deputies say, the judge charging the boy with trespassing, say he got 90 days. The boy got off lucky, I say. So now they got him down there in the juvenile hall, there in Parker County." Miss Hazel emits an audible gasp of disbelief. Oh my Lord, 90 days, you say?" Her eyes questioning the pastor. Placing his fedora on his head, he mumbled incoherent words and simply walks by the two exiting the office. He walks alone at a brisk pace, all the while angrily murmuring to himself. Young Perkins and the widow Hazel remain in the sheriff's office, unsure of just what had transpired, her eyes questioning the sheriff, who merely returns her gaze with a blank expression. The sheriff gives out a long, loud belch as he downs the last dregs of his soda. Eyeing the two coldly, he impatiently says, "Well?" He then callously motions his head in the direction of the exit. The two gaze at each other in uncertainty. As the sheriff once more motions his head toward the door, young Perkins and the widow obey the sheriff's gesture and quietly exit the office. As they do so, the two begin in conversation. What was that about? Wonders the widow, as she strained to comprehend the unusual behavior between the pastor and sheriff. All the while, her eyes remain fixed on the pastor, who is by now nearly a block away. From his angry gesticulations, it is obvious that he is deeply involved in some sort of debate. As far as they can tell, it appears that the pastor is in a quandary of some kind. Walking in a rapid pace, he removes his fedora and slaps it with his hand several times. Yes, indeed, the pastor is involved in a heated argument with himself. "Pastor Jackson," young Perkins calls out. The young man's shouts fall on deaf ears as the pastor continues walking, his anger all too apparent. He kicks a small stone in his path, sending the small projectile shooting down the road. "I don't think Pastor Jackson's in any mood to tell Bessie May about Jonah. Leastwise, not no time soon," whispers young Perkins. "You're right, little man." The young widow takes young Perkins by the hand. It's an awful hot day. Maybe we can make it back to the ice wagon before Mr. Grimes leaves. Yes, ma'am. That's a good idea. He'll give us a lift back. Wait a minute. Miss Hazel places a finger to her cheek. We come to get some clothes for you. I know, says young Perkins with growing unease. Maybe we should come back again next week. I need no clothes right now, ma'am. She looks down at the young man's face that reflects every bit of nervousness. Well, suggests the widow, with a wink and a smile, let's at least get some ice cream. Would you like a nice ice cream cone? Yes, ma'am, answers young Perkins with an eager grin.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a look at a really intense piece of writing. It's called Curse of the Mandrake, Chapter 8. Nothing changes.
Yeah, and that title, Nothing Changes, it really sets the stage, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Our goal here is to sort of unpack the layers in this scene. We're talking race, morality, identity, all squeezed into this one interaction in the town of Musky.
It focuses on this small group, Pastor Jackson, young Perkins, widow Hazel, and Jubal. And right away, as they enter Musky, you feel the pressure.
Absolutely.
Right.
The source makes a point of mentioning the signs they pass. Tall poles with the sundown law, detailed right there.
Which, for anyone unfamiliar, basically meant black people were forbidden in town after sunset. It's explicitly stated.
And it's more than just a rule on paper, you know. It's this constant looming threat. That sign really defined the whole town, and you feel that dread even before they interact with anyone official.
Okay, so let's get into that feeling, that psychological weight. The story zooms in on the way the white townspeople just watch them.
Yeah.
Silently.
It's not outright aggression at first, but it's heavy. You've got these two guys at the ice house, women in the hat shop just staring.
Even the barber, he stops mid-shave, apparently nicks his customer, and they both just stand there in the doorway watching, assessing.
Right. And the power in that silence is palpable. It's like the whole town is holding its breath, judging them. It feels like any wrong move could set something off. It's that kind of simmering tension.
But it's not just the people. The town itself has this focal point of horror. The tree, capital T, in the town square.
Oh, yeah. The description of the tree is, well, it's something else. The author uses really vivid, almost mythological language.
Calls it a vivid nightmare.
Yeah.
Compares it to Polyphemus, the Cyclops.
Yeah.
Medusa, a living gorgon.
Exactly. It's not just a tree. It's framed as this active, almost sentient force of destruction. It takes it beyond just a physical object.
And the horror isn't ancient history either. It's immediate. The text mentions the hellish sight of a mutilated man hanging its yearly sacrifice, a strange fruit.
And then that line, calling the tree their god.
Yeah, that stopped me too. It shifts everything, doesn't it?
It does. It suggests that the town's core belief system, its spiritual center, is this ritualized racial violence. The tree as its heartless heart, its soulless soul. If that's their god, then violence is basically their form of worship.
And just before they can even try to address why they're really there, you get this reminder of the everyday threat level.
Right, the street confrontation. Outside the pool hall where Jubal works.
3 young guys immediately harassing them, slurs, mocking Jubal, calling him the shoe black.
It's important because it shows the threat isn't just abstract or institutional. It's right there in your face, constantly, and sort of primes you for the bigger confrontation with the authorities.
Which brings us finally to the sheriff's office. And the atmosphere there is, well, it's thick, humid, lazy power.
Total contrast to the tension outside, in a way. The sheriff's got his feet up, sipping his soda, fanning himself with a newspaper. The picture of someone completely comfortable in their position.
He's like the embodiment of the system's indifference, isn't he?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But Pastor Jackson, he doesn't let that stand for long. He cuts right through it, demands to know about the missing boy, Jonah.
Silas's boy, Bessie Mae's son, caught in town after dark almost a month ago and just vanish.
And the sheriff's reaction is just classic deflection, right? Slows everything down, pretend he doesn't know who they mean, asks the name over and over.
Making them wait, and then he drops it. Watch your tone, boy.
Ugh, yeah, that word, boy. It's meant to just strip Jackson of all his standing, his identity.
But Jackson doesn't back down. That's what's so powerful here. He fires back, "Don't call me boy. Boy, I'm not a boy. I'm a man."
Just like folks call you sheriff. You call me Pastor Jackson. It's this incredible moment where he refuses that dehumanization.
Yeah.
He demands respect, not just answers.
And he keeps pushing, quoting Langston Hughes, "A nigger night, a nigger joy, a little yellow bastard boy."
He's really challenging the sheriff on a moral level now, taking away his comfortable position.
And the sheriff reacts exactly how you'd expect. Gets angry, balls his fists, tries to turn it around asking, "You calling me a nigger lover?"
The tension is just about to explode. And then the deputy bursts in.
Right on cue. And completely blows the sheriff's cover.
Spills the beans. Blurts out that they had caught that nye boy. Just like that, the sheriff's whole active ignorance is gone. Shattered.
Yeah, you can almost feel the air go out of the room. The sheriff has to scramble.
He has to. He grabs the keys, pushes Jackson towards the jail cells, away from the others. Needs to contain this, control the story.
And this is where it gets even more intense, because young Perkins, he follows. He creeps up to the door to listen in.
And what he hears just flips the whole situation on its head. This incredibly heated private argument.
And the sheriff confesses. He says, their own sheriff was nothing more than just a high yellow nigger.
Unbelievable. And then the pastor calls the sheriff's mother his mother, too. They're half-brothers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. The man enforcing the sundown law, this lethal racist system, is himself a black man passing as white.
It's the ultimate twisted irony, isn't it? The conflict is literally inside the enforcer.
And he explains why, doesn't he? He says he needed the job.
Yeah. What kind of work would them crackers let a colored man like me do if they knew I wasn't white? He hates Musky, he says, just as much as the pastor does.
So he's trapped, upholding the very system that oppresses him, just to survive. And those mysterious trips to Jackson, Mississippi
weren't suspicious trips. They were to see their sick mother. Their mother.
But sharing a mother hasn't made them allies. The text is clear. There's real bitterness there. A painful scar from the past.
The way the sheriff spits out the word brother. It's like an accusation, not a connection. They're related by blood, but completely divided by how they chose to navigate this world. Compliance versus, well, what Jackson represents.
And it's this toxic mix of shared history and present conflict that leads the sheriff to reveal the town's mythology about the tree.
And it's clear he believes it. He seems genuinely terrified. He says the tree is alive, that it feeds on the lifeblood of the colored folks.
And adds that chilling part that the tree seems to know he's not quite white. He's afraid of it himself.
It's where the systemic racism and this, local folk horror blend together. It creates this perverse logic for the violence.
In the specific superstition, it's about baptism.
Yeah. The tree has never took the life of a body that had been baptized. So baptism becomes not about salvation in the next life, but literal protection in this one from this specific monstrous force.
And then comes the absolute gut punch for Pastor Jackson, Jonah, the missing boy. He wasn't baptized.
Because his father, Silas, kept stopping it from happening.
And the sheriff just leaps on that, uses it to shift all the blame.
Viciously. He turns to Jackson, his own half-brother, and says, "Every life that tree takes, every drop of Negro blood is rightly on your hands."
Calling him brother again, just twisting the knife.
He basically says Jackson failed his duty as pastor, and that's why Jonah's dead, why anyone taken by the tree dies. He puts the weight of the town's systemic murder onto Jackson's shoulders.
It's an unbearable accusation. And right after that, the sheriff dictates the cover story, the lie they have to tell.
And it has to be precise, calculated. Jonah wasn't lynched. He was charged with trespassing, sentenced to 90 days in juvenile hall over in Parker County.
And later, the pastor has to invent another story, that Jonah got sick and died there. Because, the sheriff claims, that ought to make his folks feel better.
The lie of a quiet death is supposed to be easier to bear than the truth of the tree. The cruelty of that is staggering.
So they come back out from the cells. The sheriff just slides right back into his role. Feet up, soda, casual.
Puts on the performance.
Yeah.
And forces Jackson to do the same.
Yeah.
Tells him, "Go head on, pastor. Tell the nice lady."
And you can see Jackson struggling. The source says he's visibly shattered, eyes squeezed shut, having to force out this blatant lie.
Tells Mrs. Hazel about the 90 days, Parker County. She's shocked, of course, but the real weight falls on Perkins, who heard everything.
He knows the truth and realizes my cousin's name was Jonah. He's now trapped in this secret, too.
And Jackson just breaks. He leaves abruptly, walking fast, muttering, slapping his hat, clearly arguing with himself, trapped in this moral nightmare his brother just forced him into.
The only thing left for Hazel and Perkins is to get out of there fast.
Yeah. They see the pastor's state. They know he can't possibly tell Bessie May that lie right now. They decide to leave with Mr. Grimes, grab some ice cream, anything to just escape the immediate vicinity. Forget the clothes. It's too dangerous to stay.
Looking back at it all, the layers of deception are just dizzying. You've got the sheriff's hidden identity, the cover-up about Jonah, and this horrible shared burden between the two brothers.
Right. The guy enforcing the rules is secretly breaking the biggest rule of that society, and he has to maintain this destructive peace to survive, dragging his brother down with him.
And the narrative ties survival directly to this spiritual act, baptism, as if it's literal protection from the tree. It's such a bleak, fatalistic setup.
It really traps everyone. There's no easy way out.
Yeah.
Which leads back to that final crushing weight on Pastor Jackson.
Being told by his own brother, every life that tree takes is rightly on your hands. I mean, how do you even process that? How does that kind of fear shape everything you do?
What happens when the person meant to offer spiritual guidance is blamed for the failures of the law, failures of society? He carries the lie, the guilt, his brother's terrible choice. What action is even possible when the reality seems to be, just like the chapter title says, nothing changes?